Thank you for being here to help us honor Dr. Peter Horak, the 2015 recipient of the Research Award. Dr. Horak joined the UW-Tacoma faculty in 2003, contributing to both the Institute of Technology and Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences. The review committee concluded, quote, "It would be more than enough to excel in only one major area. To produce exceptionally high-quality work in two major fields of scholarship is simply extraordinary." So please welcome Dr. Horak, who's going to take us into the wonderful world of mathematics. Peter.
In trouble. Whatever I say can be used against me. This is one of the most difficult talks because audience is not homogeneous. So I'm talking to people who know a lot of mathematics, and I talk to people who are not in mathematics at all. And I would like everybody to get something from this talk. So please, if you are in mathematics, maybe you will appreciate 2-3 jokes, but you will not learn too much as for mathematics goes. So this is the title of my talk. And when you watch Oscar presentation, how do they start? They start thanking people. And I have only 2 people to thank for this award. And these are the 2 people. There is no doubt that I would have no chance to get this award if not those 2 people. So my papillon. Biggest gratitude, your Schmetterling. Where is Mike? Oh, Mike. By the way, both of them are founding fathers of this. There are 2 of the 12 initial faculty who started this campus. So I'm going to talk, roughly speaking, about 3 topics. How the world of mathematics operates, what are areas when I'm working on, and at the end, I will try to explain that you might get one email which is a couple of lines from a person you never heard about, and this email turns your life upside down in a positive way. So I hope I will have time to get all the way there. I promise that I finish on time for you to get to Christmas dinner, so don't worry. This is a big statement. World of mathematics is just. Yeah, but how do you prove it? If you are in mathematics, you have to prove everything. So here is my proof that the world of mathematics is just. When they decided in the 1930s to establish Institute for Advanced Studies in mathematics, advanced study, they wanted the only very best, the cream of the cream. And so they decided that how you get cream of the cream, how you find who is cream of the cream. And they wanted to start it in chemistry and biology. So they sent approximately 100 letters to best people in biology, and they asked, provide us with the 5 names of best people in biology. When letters came back, they had 500 names. The same happened in chemistry. When 100 letters in mathematics came back, they had 5 names. No, I love when people laugh, but I laugh like when you laugh when I make joke. This was no joke, so I always give you a signal. Now, don't lie. Think back when you were at primary school or high school. You always knew who was best in your class in mathematics. And the same goes with big mathematics. Everybody in mathematics knows who are the best 5 people. And that's what I believe, that world of mathematics is just. And I'm sure you know some of those people. Well, there's the known guy. Everything bad is good for something. Those 3 guys had to flee Europe before they're Jewish, before Hitler. And This was the last mathematician who knew all mathematics. Now nobody knows all mathematics, but it's just too big. This is father of electronic computers. He was at Los Alamos when Americans were building a nuclear bomb there. And this is what? Well, this is, let's say, Joe Montana. This is, you know, those players. It's just, so you get what you deserve, but in both senses, good and bad. And I'm happy to be of its part, but I got to mathematics nearly by chance. It was not my decision. And I always wanted to be a journalist, and I wanted to be a commentator of international politics. That's always, for me, still today, the topic. But there were people who just decided to change it for me, and these are the people who do it. This is Czechoslovakia. You have date there. And they came in 2 months before I was supposed to submit my application to university. And it's not difficult to figure out that first thing, they took control of media. If you want to be a political commentator, you have to write what they want. So I was thinking, what is the most safest area not to be influenced by politics? And well, mathematics was right, obvious choice. So that's the only reason I'm in mathematics, not a famous. Otherwise, I would be Krauthammer, I'm sure. By the way, if you look at this building is university where both of me and my wife went, and we graduated from that university. And that date, 3 people were shot on these stairs. So it was difficult to discuss with those people that leave because I want to be a journalist. And you know why it was difficult to discuss with them? If somebody has a Kalashnikov in his hand, somehow he cannot hear. It blocks his hearing. So how the world of mathematics operates? There are 2 things the world rounds about. And first are big conjectures, and second are great mathematicians, great personalities. Because in fact, they decide what are big conjectures, what are the big questions one should look at. Because we believe that they can see a little bit further than us, so they know where the progress, in what direction progress should go. And to give you an idea about those conjectures, so I just show you one. This is only one small piece of mathematics, so don't worry, don't start fleeing away. I believe that all of you heard what are prime numbers. And some 2,400 years ago, Euclid proved that there are infinitely many primes. Are there some students for my class here? Yes. So a week ago, I told you, you better learn this proof because you will be tested on it. So exactly. And he then asked next question. These are so-called prime twins. These are twins which are as close as possible to each other. Why cannot we have 2 twins which are consecutive numbers? Because one of them would be even, and even numbers are divisible by 2, so you cannot have consecutive number being twins. So these are closest twins, closest twins, and question is, there are infinitely many prime twins. This is conjecture. It's conjecture which is more than 2,000 years old. It's still open. The best minds, if those 2,000 years, try to answer this, prove this conjecture. Basically, everybody believes it's true, but nobody knows how to prove it. So some people, even in engineering, believe that mathematics is something like a completely finished subject, and the best mathematician is a guy who can multiply 2 big numbers in his head. Well, we still fight with knowledge which is 2,400 years old. So that's why I say that mathematics revolves around big conjectures, and what is big, it's more or less given by those people we believe they are best in the area. How you can get recognition in the world of mathematics? Well, why I talk about the recognition? Of course, I'm conceited as everybody else, so I want recognition so I can come home and to tell my wife, see how big mathematician I am. I want to dinner this and this because I thought. That's one reason why you want to be recognized. Second reason is that if you get recognition, it's feedback for your work. That you know that they are doing something substantial, that you are along the right track, that people appreciate. So it has two sides of it. And from whom do you want recognition? From the best people, and we know who are the best people. So how you get that recognition? But I already indicated it. You need to solve some big known conjecture. The bigger conjecture you solve, the more recognition you get, and the more quickly the door to big world of mathematics opens to you. And unfortunately, or fortunately, our world is just, but at the same time cruel in the following sense. You prove this Euclid's conjecture, let's say, and you get all the recognition, you get all the prizes, but if you do not do anything else, in 2 years you are dead. Nobody is going to invite you to come to them to give a talk. They do not want to hear the same thing over and over. So there is pressure. You cannot live on your, or sleep on your laurel wreath. You get what you deserve, in good and in bad. This is last slide about recognition. I will change topic, I'm sorry. Is there a watch somewhere? Oh, there. I'm sorry, because then I would still claim that it's still only 2:30, but you can check it. This is also a refugee from Europe. He was in Canada. And now I'm not 100% sure, but I believe he was nominated for Nobel Prize. And I'm not sure whether he got it. And he was the first person who described stress as physiological phenomenon. And he described what processes are. And he wrote a book about general aspects of works of a scholar, of a scientist. And my supervisor made me to read this book. I don't remember now, after more than 30 years, what was in this book, but I remember one thing. This guy said, if you are a popular singer, you want recognition of whom? Of a crowd. And the bigger the crowd is, the better. But if you are scientist, scholar, you want recognition of 5 people, and you know their names. And so, who is on my list of 5? With me, it happened that on my list of 5, there is one name 5 times. And that's the guy. He was the most famous mathematician of 20th century. And I'm going to explain as briefly as possible why he was the most. Because the best mathematician doesn't have to be exactly the same as the most famous. Yeah? This might be a little bit of difference. And I never had, and I never will in the future have so much respect, esteem, admiration for some person. Of course, I admired him as an absolutely great mathematician, but I admired him as a human being. He had very high ethics standards. And because, in fact, the mathematical world for 40 years revolved around this guy. Not many guys, this was revolving about him. And because he had that high ethical standards, he imposed them on the whole mathematical community. So that's why this is one of the reasons why in our community I believe that the world is just. The second reason, very important, is that there will never be money in mathematics. And if you ask for grant in medicine, you ask for 5 millions, 10 millions. I asked for grant for 30,000. And they asked, why only 30,000? Because I said, well, if I have 100 pencil sharpeners, that's enough. I do not need 50. So why he was the most famous mathematician of 20th century? The best people published 200, 250 papers. He published nearly 1,500 papers. And he had around 450 co-authors. He just traveled around the world. He was willing to work with everybody who was smart and write the paper with. And what is maybe even more impressive, officially mathematics by American Mathematical Society is there is classification. There are 40 parts of mathematics. Algebra, geometry, differential equations, topology, blah, 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 blah. 95% of people publish papers in one sub-discipline of those 40 disciplines. This guy published paper in 17 out of those 40 of those disciplines. And he was magician in the following sense. Once he came to A&M Texas University, and he was in mathematical lounge, and when he came over, of course, everybody wanted to show Erdős, I'm also good, and so there was two guys, local mathematicians, and they're very proud about the result they proved recently, and proof of this theorem was something like 30 pages long, so very, very complicated. And it was an area where Erdős never worked before. So he didn't know the definitions, so he asked those people to explain to him what those symbols mean, because it was not in his area. And then after 10 minutes, he went to the board and wrote proof with just 2 lines. If this is not pure magic, then nothing else is. And oops, what I did. Oh, talk is over. Please say, I do not know what I've done. I pushed this one. Okay. Some people are leaving, but well, it's not the end of the talk. Here is a game we have in mathematics. Because he, Erdős, published with so many other people papers, and everybody liked to be close to him. So if you go on internet and put into Google Erdős number, you will get hits. I do not know how many hits you will get. And so what is Erdős number 1? Under Erdős number 1 have those 450 people who have paper with Erdős, who worked with him directly and published with him directly. Erdős number 2 are people who did not work with him, but have paper with somebody who has paper with Erdős. And Erdős number 3 is, so there are about 8,000 people who have Erdős number 2. And well, there cannot be more people with Erdős number 1. Erdős passed away some 20 years ago. So it's, in a sense, a serious thing. When people ask for a job, they write into application, my Erdős number is 2. And I'm proud to have Erdős number 1. So here is, I explained why he was a great mathematician. Now I'm going to explain why he was the most famous mathematician. We have a saying in our country that this guy doesn't know how much is 1 pound of bread. Means this guy is untouched from reality. Erdős was completely different. Not that he didn't know how much is 1 pound of bread. He didn't know where to go to buy bread. He never in his life was shopping for grocery. He said, well, I never cooked, but I'm pretty sure I would be able to prepare tea. And he never had any permanent position. Many universities, American universities, wanted to hire him. And they could say, well, Erdős is on our staff and so. But he believed that it would limit his freedom his style of life. And his close friends were worried about that, well, how long can you live this style of life? But he refused, so he never had any position, and then you do not have any income. And he was not a rich guy. So this was a guy who lived without nearly any income. And, well, how can you arrange your life that you live? And he was a typical Renaissance man, traveling from university to university. He knew more mathematics than anybody else in the world. And everybody was happy to have Erdős. When he came, I will show you in a moment his picture. He was that tall, something like at the most 120 pounds, very, very subdued voice. But everything was always, he imposed his will, I do not know how. He was talking, and not too much. And he was talking, willing to talk with, about mathematics with everybody. Question was how long? Well, he started discussion, and if you were not able to keep dialogue with him, so he just moved to next person. But you got your chance. The world is just. And so after 3 days, this small man, when totally whole department was exhausted, he moved to next university. And there was a list of universities waiting for him to come. And so how we paid back? By totally full service. You picked him at the airport, you took him home, because he didn't like hotels. He didn't want to be alone. He wanted to be, like to be among people. And you made his bed, you food, everything, and all he provided, he paid back was mathematics. And we were so happy to do this service for him. And there are so many stories about him. Once he was in Memphis. One of his most frequent collaborators was in Memphis. His name is, oh, it's not Alzheimer. What? Fodry, Ralph Fodry. And Ralph Fodry contributed this history. Erdős had a room upstairs, and there was a huge rain. And 2 o'clock in the morning, Erdős came down and knocked at their bedroom and said, well, all water is coming in through the window. You should do something about it. Oh, no. So my own experience with Erdős. I met him first time I was something like 28, 29, and he came over to Bratislava. I always had great luck in life, because he was from Budapest. From Budapest to Bratislava is just 2 hours by train. So he stopped, when he traveled around the world, he pretty often stopped in Bratislava, sometimes only for a couple of hours. And some 3 or 4 old professors took him for dinner. And for some reason, they said, well, why don't you come with us? And so, you know, I was all shaking. Now I will see this big Erdős. And he came to me and said, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Erdős. Like if you are in a film industry and Meryl Streep comes and says, well, allow me to introduce myself. I am Meryl Streep. And during the first meeting, I was totally mesmerized. I was not able to say a word. I was just staring at him, not believing that I have this chance to be close to this great man. And he came back, let's say, in 2 months, and I was lucky that I had him lucky. Well, it was double-sided sword for some 3 hours. And what was the beginning? He came and said, well, allow me to introduce myself. And I said, well, but we met 2 months ago. And he said, I'm sorry, you know, I travel all over the world. I meet so many people. I cannot remember everybody. And I got kind of like offended. Not exactly this word. Because how come that you don't remember my name? So I decided, well, I'm going to teach you my name. You are not going to forget my name. And that was the only way how to do it. And this was, I solved 3 of his problems. And from that moment, he remembered me for the rest of my life. And I was so lucky. I spent with him days and at conferences. And And once you solve 3 problems of Erdős, whoever does it, then invitations start coming in, come to us and give a talk to us, and the world of mathematics opens to you. And once I was hosting Erdős, means Erdős stayed with us for 3 days, and that time I had opportunity to talk to him not only about mathematics, but he could talk mathematics 24 hours a day, not me. So I had chance to talk with him about other stuff as well. And if you remember Shea, this guy who got Nobel Prize for stress, and this 5 on the list, so I asked Erdős, but this was 1 year before he passed away. He was 82 or something. And I asked him who is on his list of 5. And he started, he was kind of like, didn't want to give me an answer. And I said, well, of course, you are not on his list, and he's polite, so he doesn't want to tell you that. But I was pushing. I just decided I do not let him go off with that easily. And then he said, okay, that was his gesture, like, okay, I give you the answer. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. What it matters is whether people are going to remember my work after 500 years. And that moment I realized that he's the only person I met and I will meet in my life who can rightfully have this ambition, that he did so big things in his life that people will still remember him after 500 years. There are more stories when I was hosting Erdős, but time is running, so let's move. Just to be sure, this is me, and the other one is Erdős. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt lecture because the 3rd founding father of this campus came. David, I appreciate your coming.
Hour and 22 minutes after you.
Well, you have never been anywhere on time, so why should If you were on time, I would think you're sick or something. So, okay, let's move. So Erdős had big impact on my life. In many senses I try to explain, but also in senses you would not expect. When I lived in communist country, we didn't have chance to travel, but then the borders opened, and by some chance I got to Hawaii. And that was first time I saw palm trees. And I was absolutely enchanted, and I decided, well, you want to work here, but what do I do? If there was to be not mathematics in the world, I would die of hunger in a week. So I went to Department of Mathematics and asked for a job with the chairman. And he said, well, he expected me to say something about why I want the job, and I said 5 words. I solved 3 problems of Erdős, and I got job on the spot. And here is proof. Oops. A little bit about in what areas of mathematics I work. I work for 30 years in combinatorics, and it's not usual after 30 years to change completely your area, because you know everybody knows you, you are on editorial board of journal, and you get all those. So you play the game, and then all of a sudden you go to next field, and basically hardly anybody knows your name, so you have to start from beginning. But I was attracted. I was about 55. I told myself this was water was pretty cold, so that's why I know. What I'm doing? He's smarter than me, this guy. In combinatorics, I was exclusively on pure side of mathematics. I could not care less about practical application. But then at the age of 55, I told myself, maybe you should finally do something which can be utilized in the world, so you have feeling that you just don't work on this abstract side. So I went to coding and cryptography. People have tendency to mix up those two things. What is coding, what is cryptography? Both are about transmission of information. But while in coding theory, Morse code, nobody tries to hide this information. You just try to find a way how to communicate this information. So, for example, coding theory, zip code. I believe that you know what is this zip code. This is our campus. But if you make one typo, this automatic sorting machine will send it somewhere, I believe, to North Carolina. I'm not sure now, 100%. Maybe somewhere else. But if you have, this is Canadian zip code. It looks much more different. By the way, this is zip code of Simon Fraser University, where I spent 2 years. And I need a break, and I'm a professor, I'm an instructor, so you need to get some exercise. So try to figure out, you get only 10 seconds, why those three, which are not, there are errors there, sorting machine will not have a problem to send it to Simon Fraser University, but sorting machine will have trouble with this one. 8, 9, 10, done. So those three contain only 2 errors. Say the first one, this is error in first, and here is error. So there are 2 errors. But in the last one, there are 3 errors. And Canadian zip code is 2 error correcting code. So if you make 2 typos, it still goes to the right person. Well, we have this deep philosophical result which says there is no free lunch. So here, what is trouble with free lunch here? Here you need only digits, 5, but here you need 6 of them and even letters. So if you want 2 error correcting code, you have to pay for it. There is no free lunch. So this is coding theory. Oh, well, Voyager, when I now forgot, it went to Mars or Venus, far away, and was sending signals. And there is a very long distance, and there is all these electromagnetic waves and sun erupts, and so this signal gets disrupted. So we call it there is noise in channel. So the whole message was zeros and ones, and this code was very sophisticated. It's called Golai code, which can correct 3 errors. So you are not trying to hide anything, but you are able to correct it. So this is coding theory. Cryptography is completely different business. And like coding theory is everywhere in today's life. If you buy DVD, it's coding theory because this music is encoded then in zeros and ones. And everywhere you look. And the same cryptography. Every morning when you log in and you want to go to your bank on this communication between you and bank is encrypted. So other people, spy is communicating with the headquarters. Of course, they communicate in language so people do not understand. So this is difference between coding theory and cryptography. And there are always people who want to break those. They get hands on this encrypted message and they want to break it, and probably that's most famous name, Alan, and these were the 2 even movies about Alan Turing. I could not see the second movie. The first movie, I believe, there's so many inaccuracies, let's say, in that movie. But I believe the authors knew about it, but they wanted to make it attractive to general public, so they didn't care that much about historical precision. And, well, I do not need to tell you what happened in Paris. If you listen carefully to news, they mention it a couple of times, but we were flooded with so much information that you might have missed one well, I cannot miss this because now I'm in the area. one of reasons why all those secret services and anti-terrorist units miss it is that ISIS started communicating in encrypted language. So, for example, NSA said, well, we see now that there is much more hectic communication, but we do not know what they are saying. So why we don't have Alan Turing, who is going to break, Alan Turing passed away long, but new Alan Turing. Trouble is that I like to depict it as, on one side there are people who produce tanks, and on the other side there are people who are producing ammunition-piercing tanks. And always one has upper hand. Now those guys have better steel, so they go outside and they worry that you would stop their tank. But then the other guys come with better rockets, and those guys in trouble. So this is the same in coding theory. And at this moment, people who are designing codes have upper hand to those who are breaking the codes. I mean, designing codes, this algorithmic side. This is all mathematics today. So this is why we do not know what we are not able to break their communication. In fact, how I got into cryptography, mainly it was about this NATO grant. And this is the name of this NATO grant. It's about quantum cryptography. I do not want to go that far, but those people who are code breakers, well, they want to do something, they want to break codes. And one idea is, why we do not produce faster computers? If we have faster computers, we will be able to break it. We do not have those quantum computers yet, but all military, China, big nations, England, America is working on it. And trouble is, maybe we already do have them, but in this case, you don't go and brag about it. Oh, we have quantum. You are quiet. Why? Because you want them to still use those ciphers and you can read. You remember this imitation game? British broke the code, but they made everything possible so Germans will not figure it out, but they will still use that cipher for communication. So this is, maybe we already have quantum computers. Google works on it, Berkeley, everybody works on it. How far we are, God knows. And here is the second part, secure implementation. Because if we are, how I got to this grant. This is principal investigator of this project, and we have some 4 or 5 joint papers with this guy, and he asked me to be mathematical background of this project. I cannot call myself cryptographer. I know something about cryptography, but not some deep, profound knowledge. But because today's cryptography is whole mathematics, so I serve as all mathematics they need. They come and talk to me. And so let's talk for a moment about secure implementation. This is called side channel attack. If you are not able to break code itself, you try to break it some other way. So this is probably the most famous side channel attack in history. She used kind of like, I would say, obsolete technology, but this technology was still working and is still working. But there are, of course, people who do it different ways. They measure power consumption. If computer is going through some calculation, encrypting things, whether there is 0 or 1 uses different amount of electrical power. This is, in fact, was produced within this NATO grant, what I just mentioned. There were 4 universities. This was done by this Israeli part of this NATO grant, extremely smart people. Your laptop produces some noise, capacitors. And this noise depends on the calculation. And in a very extremely smart way, if they are 10 meters from you and they have a sensitive microphone, they will break on your computer the cipher you use. But it's still, in just in developing stage because, well, there are those 10 meters you have to get. But there are always very smart way how you can get around it. Okay, I still have some time. So I was fully immersed in this NATO grant. I go to Europe for 3 months in winter, work with them on this grant. And oh, no, I skipped this. And then one email comes, and your world is completely upside down. And this email came one day before I was leaving for 3 months for Europe. And when you are leaving for 3 months, then your wife says, you need to dig garden before you go, you need to wash windows. Oh, my wife is here, I totally forgot. So I received a short, this was undoubtedly the best email in my life. For me, it's like to win a big lottery. And I was always a lucky guy for some reason. Maybe because I'm a nice guy, no? There's an option, yeah? This is conjecture. And I nearly missed this, my life opportunity. Here is this email, this facsimile of this email. I never had idea who this guy is. And this guy says, I have read your paper, and there was a conjecture in this paper I raised, and I cannot solve this conjecture, but I think I can make a significant progress on this conjecture. But I nearly missed it, and probably you all have seen this movie, Pretty Woman, when she walks in this kind of like non-traditional dress to a very conservative shop, and they kicked her out because, so that's basically what I've done with this email, nearly. But I would not be the first one in the history of mathematics who would miss this guy missed this chance. This guy, Cauchy. He was one of the biggest French mathematicians, and if you study mathematics, especially analysis, it's one Cauchy theorem after another Cauchy theorem. He was the first guy who realized that we cannot work by intuition, that everything has to be precisely proved. So that's why. And this guy, Galois, please note, he was 21 years old, but mathematics is a game of young people. Gauss proved his biggest theorem when he was 20. Turing, from mathematical point of view, this was not a big deal that he cracked that code, but he contributed absolutely great stuff in mathematics, and his biggest paper was when he was 24. So this young guy came with absolutely breakthrough in mathematics. But he was 21, he was hot-blooded. There were some females around, so I do not know details what happened, so he went into a duel. And duel, you never know how it ends. So the whole night before the duel, he was writing what his discovery. Well, this is facsimile of letter what Cauchy got. Well, if you write before duel whole night mathematics, what happens next day? You get killed, of course. No, this is a real story. I'm not making up here a single word. So Cauchy got this letter. It was difficult to read. You can see then. Guy claimed, I proved this and this. And Cauchy, now I'm guessing, Cauchy told himself, well, if I cannot do it, how a guy I never heard about can do it? So for 25 years, till Cauchy died, this letter was sitting. Thanks God that Cauchy didn't dump it somewhere. And when these big guys die, you know, they go to their all through this material, through these letters. They found it and figured out that this guy, in fact, if you heard about group theory, which is now all over physics, everywhere, you cannot take group theory out of mathematics because it basically falls apart. This guy invented group theory. He was 21. So I got the email, and this email had an attachment, and this is the attachment, which is easy to read. So, see, it starts here. Let be n algebraically independent variables and k be a free z module generated by monomials. So it's standard language. And to make it closer to it, it's like in a recipe book. Take a pound of potatoes, clean them, grate them, add an egg and some flour, and you get some mess. And then, I mean, not mess, but some. And then it comes, consider a Z linear map. It would be like, and now take it, put it into vacuum cleaner, and spread it over your TV screen. And that's exactly where I stopped reading. Because I told myself, this doesn't make any sense. And I was traveling next day, but I still was so, I replied to that guy. And I said, well, I don't understand it. I'm traveling, so I will get back to you in a week. And he sent me more explanation to this proof. And then I wrote to him, who are you? Because it's Gmail address. So I said, at what university you work? Because this is kind of like serious stuff. You look better it looks. And the answer was, you know, I am 18-year-old high school student in Korea, but I will start at Harvard this fall. And then the rang bell, and I went on internet to look up the name of this guy. Well, if you go to Harvard, and that's what I found, that this guy won 3 gold medals in International Olympiad. That in fact, he won Olympiad when he was already 15. He was competing with guys who are 19 years old. There's a huge difference between 15 and 19. And he's freshman in Harvard, and now we work together. And I say, well, let me choose problem we are going to work on, and what part of mathematics you like most. And his answer is, well, I do not know any mathematics. I was just trained for this mathematics for Olympiads. And then next day he sends me a theorem which is based on Hilbert Nullstellensatz. Well, it's a little bit technical, but this is some theorem that when you finish PhD in mathematics, you still do not know this theorem, because it's just more than that. He has absolutely great innovative ideas. That's, you know, like spreading through a vacuum cleaner the potatoes on your TV screen. And I showed this proof to one guy who is a member of Hungarian Academy of Sciences. In Hungary, mathematics, thanks to Erdős, they have very high standards who gets into Academy of Sciences. And I showed him this one page of paper, and this guy read it, his close friend to mine, for 5 minutes. And he said, well, this guy is smarter than I am. That's mathematics. You know who are the best. You know who are better than you. You just read one page, and it's absolutely clear to you that this guy is smarter than I am. And what I'm doing. We've been working for half a year with this guy, and I believe that what we've done already is, if not PhD thesis, that at least very solid foundation for PhD thesis. And he's just 18-year-old guy. And this is my greatest mathematical excitement of my life, to work with this guy. He's like a big diamond. He's already pre-cut, but there are still some facets that I can polish a little bit. And I believe that my big luck is that at the end of my career, I just got this diamond to work with. If you saw the idea how his mind works, the other day I sent him proof, 3 pages, and then a couple of, I do not know, 1 hour he replied back, oh, you go from local to global. He has such a deep, immediate penetration. So there are 3 pages of details of difficult calculation, and he says, oh, it's from local to global. You have to be born with this. You cannot. And now, for young people who are here, especially you said you are a math major. I want to do always also for some students. So I'm part of this NATO grant, and I took 2 of our students to Europe so they can work with this NATO grant. They see what's happening. So this guy will be here in January for a week. And I will arrange talk for our math major given by him. I believe I have some 3 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes left. Great. Thanks to mathematics, I met several really great people. And let me tell you very briefly about this too. There is a whole detective story about Einstein's brain. It was lost, and it was dissected. I do not know whether you heard about this. And this, this lady, Sandra Wittelson, she's endocrinio. Can you pronounce it? Endocrinologist. My papillon. Your father was? Oh, then that's why you remember it. She works for McMaster University, and she somehow got this part of the brain of Einstein which is responsible for mathematics. And Conway, that's, my goodness. Conway is very well known, especially for people in computer science. Do you remember this play, Life, Conway? He's a great mathematician in Princeton. So Sandra invited Conway to come to McMaster so she can also test a living genius against to see and to compare. And in the evening, I was lucky I was there, and well, she could not entertain him in the evening, so she asked me to go with him for dinner. So I had Conway for me for 5 hours, let's say. I just want to show that not all mathematicians do not know how much is a pound of bread. This guy was 3 times married, has 7 children. At this dinner, he had a bottle of wine. He knows everything about life. And he's a standing comedian. I was once present at a lecture, there are some 400 people, where he was explaining some big discovery he did, and he said, well, at this moment, when I discovered it, I lied on the floor, raised my hands and legs, and giggled like a small child, like this. And he lied in front of all 400 people on the floor. And then he stood up and went with his lecture. So when I was talking to him, of course, we talked mathematics, but then I went to that story. And I said, you know what I admired most? That when you got up from the floor, you didn't lose your dignity. And he said, of course, I never had any dignity. Okay, all things, even though I have to finish, so this is the last slide. These are those 2 people this is Erdős and this is this young boy. Please note that Don Griul was born 85 years after Erdős. So I do not know how it happened that I worked intensively with 2 people who were born 85 years apart. And now I talk to young people. I wish you all that you had so much luck as I did in my life, that you have opportunity to be around such great people, to be influenced by such great people. I thank you all for not falling asleep during my talk. And to make sure that you don't fall asleep, I was shouting all the time, so it's difficult to sleep. That's all.